Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Bar Podcast. Hope you're all having a great day today. First, before we get rolling, we want to thank LDR Studios and Clark Crosser for his amazing talent to put this together, because if it was not for him, thank you, Clark, we would not be doing this. So thank you very much. You can find us, like us on all the social media sites, especially on YouTube, our YouTube channel. So get out there, like us, find us. Give us some comments and feedback. We're always open and interested in hearing comments from everybody. So
yes,
get out there and find us on YouTube. Before we get going, like we do always, if you are struggling and you do need support and you are going through something, we have a couple of resources for you. You can text the word refuge to 494949. It's an anonymous text chat. So that's a really good one. And then kind of the national support, I think you can dial 988, right, Eric?
Yep,
that's
right.
A new one for the kind of world, I guess. And then with our guest today, I'm gonna be remiss if I don't call this out, but very important to us. We thank all of our veterans for everything they've done for us. So thank you very much. But there's a Veterans Crisis Line by calling 1-800-273-8255, or you can text as well 838-255. So that's very important to all of our veterans. So
especially today.
Josh, thank you very much for participating in this podcast. We're very grateful for you to come on and share your story with us. We've known each other for a little while, and I've gotten to know you personally. But Marine, right? I'm going to get this correct. I know we talked a little bit. I want to make sure I get it correct, though. But prior serviceman Marine, Josh James. So thank you very, very much for coming on, Josh. We really appreciate it.
It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. So we've kind of known each other and Erik as well. Now for probably about a year, maybe not quite a year, but just about a year. And you came to us through a Building a Refuge kind of avenue, I guess, or something close to that, anyways. But as we do with many of our guests, we'd love to get to know you personally and kind of how you landed in Indianapolis, and give us a little bit of background about yourself and where you grew up and all that. We'll share some of the good stuff for later and kind of our 7 degrees of separation.
Right,
so
yeah. I come from a little town called Bright, Indiana, Dearborn County.
Yeah.
As we've talked a little bit before, we kind of about the roundabout direction of how we met.
Yeah.
Knowing the same people from back in those days, in the Dearborn County, Bright, Indiana days. How did I land here? Well, I make a joke with my friends that I'm just making my trip up 74.
Yeah.
Because if anybody knows about 74, that runs pretty much, parallel to and on down to, Greensburg, all the way down into Dearborn County.
Yeah.
So, what really brought me here was probably just a change.
Yeah.
Growing up in a small town, I left there for a reason, joined the Marine Corps.
Yep.
Just I just needed to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So coming back from the Marine Corps, going back home wasn't probably the best thing.
Yeah.
Because you find yourself getting in a rut, getting lazy.
Yeah.
I was also carrying a big problem of addiction and alcoholism.
Yeah,
so
sure.
With that, what I've learned now through the education of recovery and things like that, you can change the environment, but it doesn't play any favorites. You're gonna find it.
Yeah.
If you don't get the help, then you're kind of never.
Yeah.
You're ice skating uphill.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. So let me ask a quick question. So Bright, Indiana, that's down, you said, near Lawrenceburg, southeast Indiana, for those that are kind of listening to this and maybe not familiar with the state of Indiana anyways. That's down kind of near Cincinnati, right?
Yes.
How much, like, population-wise of Bright?
6,600 people, I believe, still.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because we've had guests on, and myself come from a small town.
Yeah.
I mean, I say small, 600 people. So, but I know I think like the next biggest town to us might have been like 6,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody kind of knows everybody. But it's great too. It's having a small community like that's kind of a kind of fun to grow up in. How about brothers and sisters?
I've got a brother and a sister.
Okay.
My brother is, wow. Because you're the older brother, you start forgetting how old your siblings are.
That's because we are kind of old, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Oh, yeah, definitely, 100%. My sister, she's up here. She's 39.
Okay.
Going to be 40, I believe.
Yep. And she's in the Indianapolis
She's
area.
actually in Carmel.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, she moved up here after college. Well, she was in college up here at Marion. And graduated from there. Now she's a teacher in the one of the public schools in Indianapolis. Now my brother, He's going to end up with one of us eventually.
Okay.
Because he is high functioning. He's on the spectrum. We got to say that.
Yeah.
High functioning Asperger's.
Yep.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Works like a horse. You
Yeah,
know,
that's great.
that just he's with mom and dad right now.
Okay.
Hometown house.
And they live back in Bright.
They're still in the same,
right on.
same house in
Yeah.
Bright, Indiana. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, no, listen, man, we appreciate it. You know, you and I have spent some time talking a little bit about really just your story. And again, you know, I think you have a pretty, broad and I would say wide, story to share with us, Josh. And I think the big thing for us, as we've talked, is really kind of around the stigma of mental health and, the challenges that guys face. And that's kind of what we do here, right? I mean, as you see on our logo and what we put out, it's one story at a time to create hope. Mm-hmm. And it really is for the purpose of trying to address and change that mindset around the stigma of mental health. And like, look, man, there shouldn't be a shock if anybody wants to go to a coach or go to a therapist or whatever to get some help, right? Yeah, and so I think that, what you bring is such an important piece from a veteran's aspect. And I think your personal challenges that you've had in your own life, right, with addiction, as you mentioned, around alcohol and so on, because we talk to a lot of people, a lot of guys that have faced those challenges themselves. So maybe share with us a little bit about what your kind of thoughts are around, just addressing mental health in general, right? And maybe we'll start off from a military perspective, right? And how you feel about it, what you see today, how maybe we can address it better, how we can do things differently, and maybe even how BAR is helping out with kind of focusing on it.
Mental health and seeking help is a must. There's no more, hey, I'm too tough for this.
Yeah.
Because you're not.
Right. Yeah, it's okay, man. That's what the great part about this show is, man. I mean, we allow for it to kind of take its own path and do its own thing, and man, that's what it is. It's real, buddy. So
we get kind of choked up there because I think about all the other, veterans, not just veterans, but people that struggle with this.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, it's an absolute war.
Yeah.
To get up every morning, and I don't want to sit here and talk from a victim. Stance.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I've learned, you cannot play the victim in this world.
Yeah.
You have to get up and put your boots on every morning and,
It's the real world, right?
It's the real world.
That's right.
And last time I checked, this world isn't getting any better.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's an absolute must.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take the stance, being a veteran, not just being a veteran, but being, like I said, having those challenges, having mental health, issues, you need to address it because, I think I've read this thing. I mean, it'd be a shame to meet the person that you should have been.
Yeah.
And if you could grasp that, that's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're, struggling from mental health and, issues like that, and you think about what I just said with that, get the help.
Yeah.
Get the help. It's not going to go away completely. You're going to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. But it's in my experience, if I wouldn't have got the help, there is no doubt in my mind I would not be sitting here.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think that's one of the things that we've learned with the, I just, just like you, man, I get overwhelmed, just about when I start to think about it in the big picture of things, right? I think about like where we started with building a refuge, all of the different guests that have kind of come our way. And at the end of the day, man, you're exactly right. I mean, it's about seeking help. And I think, you and I talked about it, even earlier this week, we were just chatting about like the stigma around like, hey, it's okay to go get help, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even when you seek that out, and Eric, I know you've run into this and I've run into this. I mean, it's like, hey, what's wrong? You guys all right, man? Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, everything's cool. Everything's just fine. I'm just navigating life.
Right.
Yeah. Because like we talk about this, like you walk out that door, dude, and it's a guaranteed you're going to get kicked in the balls. It's just 100% going to happen. Yeah. Whether that, whatever it looks like is different. But, I think that's, that's what you're saying.
Well, and I think even, and you can speak to this more because I've had lots of conversations with different veterans and even those people in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And mental health for you and I, when it doesn't really pertain to our careers or our jobs or whatever, like when you start talking military, start talking law enforcement, and you start mentioning mental health, like there's
right.
dangers in your careers, there's dangers in retirement, there's dangers, different things that can happen to you in regards to that.
Yeah.
And that's a huge hill to get over for most veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit it really good. What do we do after?
Yeah.
So, talking about law enforcement, military, nursing, whatever, doctors, after it's all said and done, it's like you created this switch.
Yeah.
You're trained at a certain level to where that switch doesn't come on, just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So when you come back and you try to, retirement, whatever you want to call it, whatever that looks like for you, it's just, that switch is still there.
Yeah.
And learning how to turn it off, or at least, I don't know if you could halfway turn it off. I think you can't do that. It is such a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you come back and being a man.
Yeah.
With all the stuff that we put on ourselves personally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As far as, being a provider,
Yep.
Teaching our kids,
Yeah.
I big Jordan Peterson fan.
Okay.
Really like what he says about children. He goes, you can't protect them, you need to prepare them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, kind of don't want to say that too much because there might be some, a population out there that doesn't really grasp what that means. Doesn't mean he's being a monster. We were just looking at it at like, hey, if I protect you, I'm not going to be able to teach you anything because I'm shunning you from the trials and tribulations that you have to go through to become that person. So
I think I heard somebody recently say that to us, that, we can't make decisions for them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's right. But you can help by those decisions by, preparing, I guess, at the end of the day, and how you address things or what have you. But right. I think even as males, I'll put it this way. I think right away, and maybe it's just the time frame we grew up in as well. I don't know. There's probably a lot of different angles you can look at it, this way, but we're kind of taught that, as a young man, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you're playing baseball as a kid or you're on a team sport of some sort and you get knocked down, it's like, look, man, just brush the tears off and get your ass back in there. You know what I mean? I heard a guy tell a story just recently about this where he was like, look, I remember one of the instances when I was a kid, I was in a karate class, right? And this kid just smoked me in the gut, knocked the wind out of me, man. I'm just down on the mat crying. He's like 8 years old at the time. And the sensei or the instructor of the class came over and he's like, "What are you crying for?" Yeah, and that's like, I think like we just put a stop on it right there, right? He's like, "What are you crying for?" It's, well, because this is something I don't know what the hell's going on, and it freaking hurts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He's like, "Go get in the bathroom and just brush it off." So I think it starts pretty young. And here's the thing: there's a balance between it too, right? You know what I mean? There's a balance between being able to be open about it, and there's a balance between, brushing off and moving forward from it. But I think I don't know, man. I just think it's a very interesting parallel anyways that you bring up around that.
Well, what Josh, he's being kind of humble when he did his introduction.
Yeah.
When we were talking earlier, he was a stud football player. So
that's exactly right.
Back in the day.
Back
in the day, if you look at, I was a mediocre at best athlete. Yeah. Right. And I got that from my dad. Yeah. It's like, get up, you freaking snap a quad, break an arm, do whatever, get your ass back in there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the world he grew up in, especially being a good football player.
Yeah. Well, let's take that, but let's state championship. Okay.
I was going to let him talk about that and share that. But he was a state champion. And
it's a crazy degree of separation, man.
Yeah. And you guys will share that story. But anyway, and then going, directly into the Marines. And we were talking about that earlier. And then he has a really good perspective, I think, on that in between. It's I'd love for you to talk about that, because when we were talking earlier, you're like, look, I'm a Marine. There's a badge I wear, it's like there's a toughness that I have to portray, but then there's this side, this emotional side of me, this new side of me that I've discovered, and I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, talk about it from just a man, a student. I'm still a student as a man.
Sure.
Right on.
Aren't we all?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just being a Marine. There's some good things and there's some bad things with that.
Yeah.
talking about how we grew up and, in that time frame where you have to be tough, or, you don't show emotion, things like that.
Right.
Well, it's a very prevalent thing in the military where it's called military bearing. So meaning that no matter what is going on around you, you still have that calmness, you're in control, even when you're dying inside, which is leading up to, okay, I need to go get the help, because like I was talking about that switch, you get out and you deal with that on a day-to-day basis, like that bearing. Even though the beast inside of you wants to handle it a certain situation, you can't. It's not okay to do that.
Yeah.
But it would directly affect in a way that would probably work. But you can't do that in today's society.
Yeah.
Right.
Being able to control that I don't want to say animal. Well, that part of you, in any man, not just a service member,
Right.
but being able to ebb and flow, which I think as a man or society. Is hard for us to do because it's almost like if you do too much of it, and be very careful what I'm saying right now, it's toxic.
Okay.
I think it's firmly okay that learning in my journey that it's good to be vulnerable. You can cry, obviously, because if you don't have that outlet, you can go, you're working out, stuff like that, and you can't cleanse yourself of that and actually be emotional. Now, I'm not saying be an emotional, like, shit show. Okay. Pardon my French. Because you got to hold it together.
Yeah.
But knowing when in your safe space and your people to be emotional because you're, in talking about spirituality and stuff like that, just because you're not on a stage every day, there's always somebody that's suffering just like you and doesn't know how to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, 100%, be a savage.
Yeah.
Handle your day, handle your work, handle your what you need to do on a day-to-day basis. But also, when it's time to be vulnerable, be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know how to flow in and out of between that, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
At what point in time, Josh, did you discover that? Like, because I'm sure when you're in the military, it's all on all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
When did you come to that?
Probably after I got the help. Ironically,
it's a great. Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
2 plus 2.
I'm waiting for this big answer to come. He's like, probably when I get no shit, right? It's great.
Yeah.
When I realized that looking for answers at the end of a bottle was not the answer anymore. Running away from those emotions, things like that, not allowing myself, and I'm going to say something, not having the emotional responsibility to do that as a man.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because we have children.
Yeah.
The emotional responsibility is for yourself, is to let them know it's okay.
Yeah.
But
how hard? I mean, like, think about that. I mean, how hard is it that? Because I when the word that popped into my head is just conditioning, right? I mean, that's kind of what I go to when you talk about. And again, man, I don't have this. That's why we're so grateful to have your vantage point of this. I don't have that background of what you experienced going through the decision to enter into the military, right? To say, look, I'm sacrificing myself. I'm going to do this. I don't have that background of what basic was like, and then what becomes of beyond that, right? Like, I don't have that. But what I can wrap my head around is there's a time frame there that there's a lot of conditioning that takes place, even if you take beforehand out of it, right? Like, Erik was kind of joking around here a little bit, but you and I videotaped this dude, watched him win a state championship high school, and we didn't even know that until about 3-4 months ago,
right?
And it's crazy that like how things kind of come around. But my point to this is that like that conditioning, I would imagine, Josh, and enlighten us, but from the time you exited the military, right? And Erik talked about this time frame. Like that conditioning's still there.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
It's still there to this day, even though I'm taking.
Which it's not a bad thing.
No.
I would never say it's a bad thing because from a preparedness aspect, I think you bring up just such a great, tremendous point around just being like recognizing to be vulnerable, like that it's okay, right?
Yeah.
That you're conditioned in one mindset, but yet it's okay to let this out. Because if not, dude, man, it bottles up like a freaking firework, and and when it goes off, it makes a pretty big bang, right?
Yeah, you either end up hurting somebody or hurting yourself.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you're hurting yourself.
That's right.
And then if you look at it as having a family and children, you're hurting them.
That's
you're
exactly
setting
right.
them up for failure. I will say that, because it's good to be, personified like, okay, strong and stuff like that. It's okay. But I think where we are looked at the most is, okay, he's just 100%. That means just 100%. He hunts, he fishes, he likes guns and stuff like that. But it's easy for you to look at that to fit an agenda that you want.
Yep.
Okay, but have you walked, a mile in my moccasins? That's an Indian saying,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're going to take what I say, wrap it up in your opinions, and then say that I'm sending a hate message.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on your side too.
Yeah.
Just because
we're on the same team.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because I took a different avenue approach in a career, okay, and I experienced those things, and it was the best thing for me to build the character and the stuff that I needed to where I'm at now,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're all human.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well,
and to you had mentioned a little bit earlier, and I don't know whether you're okay talking about this or not, but when you came out of the military, like the first choice for you to be able to cope with this stuff was alcohol.
Was
right?
alcohol, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's addiction and alcoholism is such a sneaky devil, because the way that I grew up, going back to high school, you weren't supposed to drink, because it was against the law, but we all did it.
Yeah.
Sure. And it was just whatever. You could still handle your business, you know. Then you get to the adult world, whether you try college or in college. Yep. You're a weekend warrior. You still recover. You're still handling your stuff.
That's right.
Right.
But what I didn't see is, while I was in, we drank a lot. What I didn't see is that it was creating a problem and a disease in my, to where when I got out, I didn't have that structure anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that I would say was able to keep my mind busy.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus all the things that have happened over that time when I got out, okay, it stared me in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then the next thing you know, well, how do I get rid of this? You self-medicate, you try to run from it. And then you start figuring out, okay, after 16 years of compounded legal issues, yes, that this isn't okay anymore.
Yeah.
You have a child, you have a family. This isn't okay anymore.
Yeah.
I'm tired of feeling like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was my go-to. And luckily, I mean, God has had his hands on me the whole time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Like when we first met, and I'd be remiss if we don't share this story because I think it's super important. How we met is, I think, just a direct connection to what Erik and I set out to do, back in 2018. Quite frankly, when we sat down on that first coffee shop and said, we got to do something.
Yeah.
We got to just try, right? Because, both of us, I think, as our relationships developed and we kind of came back together again after 16 years, it had everything to do with God. Like 100% everything to do with God.
No doubt.
And, and so when you think about, that day when we met on that Harley ride, he said something to me earlier that kind of made me laugh. He's like, I saw this guy in all his Harley gear, man. He must be the real deal. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm the furthest from the real deal, man. Yeah, right? I'm like, damn, I dress up nice, right? But I just think that's funny, right? Because even back to your mention a little bit ago about perception, right? And you don't really know somebody. And I'm the kind of guy, most people know me, man. I'm like, hey, what's your name? I'm, what's your favorite color? You know what I mean? But it is. I've just learned that it's kind of how I'm hardwired. But I think I've learned that even more today in what we do at Building a Refuge is just introduce myself, and especially on a ride like that. You know what I mean? Where it was a community and so on and so forth. And then Josh shares a story with me, like, yeah, man, my mom kind of encouraged me to come out and do this, and
which is a whole nother. I think probably could be another episode.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, how cool is that though, right?
Yeah, that was.
I mean, because you listened, right? You said even earlier, man, moms are great, right?
Right.
They are great,
Yeah.
and they have great intentions. You know what I mean? And for us as their kids, but
So I've heard bits and pieces of that, but tell me the story.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Josh tell it.
So, I bought myself a Harley. Finally,
Yeah, you did.
last,
What kind did you buy?
A Road King.
Yes,
Road
sir.
King.
Team Road King.
Yeah.
I love our audience in here. You get a little smile out of them.
So yeah, I bought it up at the Fishers, Harley Davidson.
Yep, Harley Davidson of Indianapolis.
Yep. I was just dead set on getting a Harley. You know, I've had a couple of motorcycles, but you know, I needed something to where I looked at it as an investment. You know, like, hey, I've arrived. You know, here I am in my recovery. I'm not finished with my recovery.
Yeah.
Sure.
I still have my pitfalls. You know what I mean?
And you should celebrate that.
Well,
man.
he said earlier he wanted a big boy bike.
Yeah.
Badass bike.
You
That's
know,
why big boys ride the Road Kings.
That's right. That's right. So I bought that, and you know, of course, moms and sons have a.
Yep.
Mom will get you.
That's right,
every
man.
time.
That's right. They'll put a lump in your throat every day.
Oh, every day.
Every day.
You know, I run to her and tell her, you know, as if I was
10-year-old kid again, right? Yeah.
And she's, oh yeah, you know, all excited and stuff. And
I love that.
You know, I'm on Facebook, and little do I know, and this is where, I mean, we could take this so many different avenues.
Yeah,
sure.
She posted on my Facebook about a motorcycle ride, because in the backdrop, she's always heard about me not having, you know, it always like, yeah, the motorcycle's cool, but I would like to get involved with like a veteran ride or
community.
Right. And I looked up, and there's not really unless you want to travel, there's, you know, and there's chapters here that it's got to be the right feel. It's got to be the right vibe.
Yeah.
Never did get that. So she posted this ride, and all in the meanwhile, she has no clue of what's going on, you know. I mean, I wouldn't say she doesn't have any clue, but how it was attached to the Harley Davidson Fishers, Coats for Kids, which is
because she's down in southern Indiana.
Yeah, she's down in southeastern Indiana. Yeah. It was so funny. I tell this story, and she already had knew two people that were on that ride. So here I am doing this poker ride, you know, first time ever, just taking everything in, and I, you know, at the end you get photos and stuff, and I'm showing. She's like, "Oh, there's so and so." How crazy is that?
Yeah.
So. And then that Brandon talking about how you seeing him and like he's the real deal. That was on that same ride.
Yeah.
And then here we are now. And
there's more to it than just here we are now.
It's magical.
The connections, the connections that we kind of figured out post that, right? Because then Josh came out to our Building a Refuge ride, which we'll do a little plug on that, May 13th, 2023, right? Rock and Ride for Hope.
That's right.
But we had one last year out of Harley Davidson, Indianapolis, and Josh came out, and then we put two and two together, knowing Steve McCarthy from the chapter, and then he was like, wait, who are all these guys hanging out with you here? I'm like, well, there's some dudes that we go to church with, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, well, where do you go to church? I'm like, well, we meet in a bar. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, where at? And I said, well, we meet at Allie's Ale House in Pinheads. And he just had to put his head down.
Yeah.
And he said, and that's when Josh shared some of his story of recovery with me, right? Because I didn't know that at that point in time, man. I mean, we hadn't, you know, we'd talked for a few times and gotten to know each other and traded texts and so on. But he's like, man, I used to leave that place. You know, not in my right mind. And I'm just like, what? Yeah,
it really came for full circle, and I knew right then I was at the right place. You know, I'd found my people.
Yeah. So you used to get messed up in the bar.
So at church, you know, it's funny. It's like you really don't want to get like, I didn't know anybody. I knew some people there. I knew Brandon, but I'm like, you've got all these people, you know, such seasoned OGs in their spiritual strength, and I'm like, I'm just like, there's no way. You know,
I hope
Rusty's listening to this right now, man. He's gonna love it.
And something got into me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share my story because I just have to, you know.
Love that.
And you know, in church, you know, I didn't go up to the front. I just raised my hand and sat there, and I'm like, you know what? Let her rip, Tater Chip.
Yeah, man.
And I told the story of like, in this whole journey of recovery and coming back and, you know, getting through all the trials and tribulations, I was like, you know what? My mom had asked me where I went to church, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I go to this place called Lebanon. I was like, Mom, you know what's so ironic? I was like, before I got into trouble, legal trouble, and, you know, heading down that road to death, the place that I attend church is one of the places that I used to walk out of totally inebriated.
That's crazy.
So now here I am full circle, attending church, you know.
Dude, it
gets, I mean,
yeah, man. I mean, it's
crazy.
It's, you know, that, like, I love the connection of that. And I love I guess it's just I don't know what the right word is, man, because it's like it's frankly how I ended up, you know what I mean, at Lebanon. And Erik and I have always said this about building a refuge, man. We don't push anything. We don't tell people you got to do one thing or another, man, because it's not on our plan, right?
Yep.
But when these things happen, we would be not, I think, sharing. We'd be doing it wrong. We just didn't share it. You know?
It's
real, man.
You know, I love when Rusty, our pastor, we try to explain something to him.
Yeah.
And there is no explanation.
Yeah.
He calls it the awe of God.
Oh yeah, man. Just
and then that just kind of ends it.
Right.
And then you just sit in it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're able to do today, is like tell that story, share that story. That's kind of why I wanted to step back a little bit and ask about recovery and coping and all that stuff, because there is that progression. There's everybody's story that we've had, there is that progression. Mm-hmm. It's not like literally, I mean, there is some effort. There is some work that we have to do, right? There was a decision you had to make, right? It wasn't just, you know, you didn't just flip that switch, right? You had to learn how to flip that switch.
Right. I had to make a conscious effort to make
every
a decision to say, I need help. How am I going to get this done?
Yeah.
You know, and look back, like, I've done some pretty cool things, you know, and like build upon that. And like, okay, if I can do that, why can't I do what's the right thing in my bubble?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, I'm not trying to,
we're not
going to touch, you know, like, we don't force anything. Like how you said that,
Right.
we don't force anything on anybody. But when you talk about the magnitude of story, this is a big story.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Sure
it is.
And like I said, there's going to be people listening, you know, to this.
Mm-hmm.
We have a obligation and I would say a mission to tell these kind of stories, because there's people that are struggling a lot worse than we are.
Yeah.
And if we can reach people,
it's hope.
100%.
I mean,
well, that's the whole reason why we like to, like, we get pretty linear here, right? We you know, from start to finish.
That was a pretty big word, by the way. I'm not.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
That was a Ball State, like your dad. Your dad would love that.
It just comes out. I mean,
right.
a lot of times.
It was effortless.
That's why I love you, man.
It exudes from
I do.
you.
I love it.
But anyway, we do that. Try to for the people who are listening, because at different stages, different people they're at a different place.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody out there is at a different place.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that dude who is just getting out of the military, and he's like, what the hell do I do? You know, what in the world is this all about?
Right.
You know, he can resonate with your story. You know, and he's like, well, maybe I can do it because Josh did it.
Right.
Or maybe I can reach out to Josh, and
Right.
Josh would be, I know you'd love to help him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and that right there is community in
Amen.
itself. And
Yeah. I mean, not
right on.
anybody, not just, I'm not going to segregate myself from, you know, somebody that's a veteran.
Right,
or
right.
some of my brothers
Sure.
and sisters. For
I just use an
everybody.
example.
Yeah. For everybody, you know, it would be a crime not to share.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. I mean,
And the thing is that I don't know how long ago you really were able to make that switch, but I'm sure there was a time where there's no way in the world you ever thought you'd be sitting here telling your story.
No.
No way.
No.
And me too, and
Yeah.
probably you. And it's like at some point in time, you get to a point where you're like, I have to help. I need to help people, and some people get to that stage, and some people don't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
so Josh, I had a question. I just want to ask this because I mean, and it has to do with your recovery. And as Erik said, you know, like if he said, if if it's not comfortable or whatever, how long, like when you first made that choice to go, right? You said, man, I need to do something, because I know there's a clouded mind there, right? How long of a time frame was it that you woke up one morning or it happened, or like you're like, holy shit, like you just felt different?
I would say, and I'm gonna pinpoint a situation versus a feeling, and maybe combine those two.
Yeah. Cool.
They always say when you honestly make the decision to recover and get help, things like that, your social world is going to minimize. It'll just fall off.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You'll start losing people. So I experienced that when a brother of mine that I played football with on that team, where I had to make one of the toughest decisions in my life to say, hey, I love you, but I got to love you from afar.
Yeah.
Because not because he was forcing me to do anything, it was because of the environment that it put me into. So I had to, for my life, I had to cut that out.
Yeah.
And not just that person. I'm talking about people, places, things like that.
And this is during during the front end of it.
The front end
of recovery.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how I felt was once I actually got through the real scary part of that, of losing, my network and my friends and the places that I used to go, I was like, okay, this is how it's supposed to. I'm arriving. I haven't arrived just yet.
Yeah.
I'm arriving because I felt good. I felt in control.
Yeah.
So still the animal was still there, and it always will be.
Sure.
But I felt like, okay, I can do this. And one foot in front of the other. And I still have to do that every day.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, did I get to the pillow tonight? Just stuff like that, little baby steps.
Yeah, man. One of our really good buddies that we met, I met a few years back, and I just love this dude. And he was a recovering alcoholic as well, and he shared with me the Serenity Prayer, which I didn't really know a whole lot about. And again, he kind of walked me through his story, but it's like, God, just grant me the strength today.
100%.
And just broke it down like into every day. Like he goes, I wake up every day, and I don't know a day now that I don't say that, because it is day to day.
It is.
Yeah. And I just think that, like, man, again, it's doing this. Like, I think I was telling you guys earlier, I had a moment, that I just was overwhelmed by, like, everything that has come this way to us through building a refuge and what we're trying to do. It's every day we try to help. Every day we try to create hope. And if it wasn't for stories like this, like you said, it'd be crime not to share them,
It would.
Because as I just sit and listen to you a minute ago talk about those stages, right? Those time stages. And Josh, you and I talked about this even earlier, man. I mean, I have a ton of family that are military vets, right? I was always intimidated by the military, right? And I said, man, if I probably had somebody that would have coached me, it would have been different, because I can imagine how proud you do feel and should feel for, defending this country and sacrificing, right? It's important, man. I mean, we have friends that help us with building a refuge that have a great support mechanism for veterans. And I'm proud to say just that we have that. Like last year on that poker ride that we did, the commander for one of the stops that we had came up and thanked me. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what? I was dumbfounded. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't thank me, man. I'm like, that just doesn't feel right. And he's like, no, man. He said, we've had more people respond to us because of your outreach on this ride than we have had yet. And I'm like, man, whatever we need to do. You know what I mean? Like, whatever we need to do. And I think I do want to isolate that from a vet's perspective, but I also want to say in generality, and I think you did a great job of saying this, man, it doesn't, I don't want to just, say vet, because anybody that goes through alcoholism, right, and they go through that, that grip, if from the front end of being able to coach somebody, right, and help walk through, I mean, that's what we try to do, is just create this refuge, man. I mean, that's what it is. And these stories are hugely helpful, I mean, and I think from that, from that aspect, I mean, talk to us a little bit about how the back end. I don't want to say the back end because I mean I think for you every day it's a journey, it's a learning, right? And maybe that's just I don't know, man. We're all probably close to the same age here, so maybe it is maturity. I don't know. I just hate that word. It's just not a good word for me. But like what it's meant to be, kind of through some of this and getting to see it's got to be fulfilling, man. I mean, like I know the feeling I get just listening to you and learning from you and hearing from you. How has it made you look at mental health a little differently on the back of this in terms of the big picture?
Well, like talking about a stigma, as far as the genre that we grew up with.
Yep.
Your grandpa, great grandpa, your dad, they come up from a they grew up where they worked from sun up to sundown. I mean, you talk about people that would go to the factory, smoke cigars, and I mean, tough as nails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like that anymore. I mean, I can go so many. This is great. I love this.
I know, bro. It's like we can do 10 episodes on this. You know what I mean? 100%. That's what's great.
I don't know. I got
that's
so
good.
many things.
So I mean, look, I think from a standpoint of, I mean, you said it best at the front. I mean, again, you said so many great things, but I mean, I think on the front of this, one, it's making a choice and it's saying, okay, right?
Yes.
I'm going to do this.
Yes.
And we as men, I would say this because I've had to do this too with my own personal experience. You just got to break that barrier down, right?
Right.
And be courageous enough.
Right.
To say, hey, I'm gonna get help.
Right.
But I want to stop there too, not only because I think it's important, but this is what we try to do is rip that stigma away. Because when you say that out loud to somebody initially, and it still is this today, man, they're like, oh my God, are you okay? We said this on the front end of this. We're talking, right? Are you okay? It's like, yeah, man, I'm doing just fine. Like, I'm good.
Right.
And I always take this analogy, right? Like, if you're going to get better at something, we'll use football, right? If I was going to become a better defensive tackle, I had to practice.
Right.
Yeah.
You had to condition, you had to practice, you listened to a coach. They said, hey, go do this, get better balance, blow out. I mean, that you listened. But when you tell somebody I want to be a better defensive lineman, they're not like, oh shit, man, are you okay? Is everything
Right.
cool? But if you go, man, I'm seeing a mental health therapist, it's like it's still there today.
Well,
And I think that's probably what fires me up the most, because like what you're talking about and what you're doing, I think is so friggin' courageous and so awesome. And that's what we're trying to take away from it, that it's okay. Everybody's got a mental health barometer, right? I said this to somebody else the other day. I said, hey, man, we're not focused on mental illness. We're focused on mental wellness. Like, that's what it is. It's mental wellness. Like, how can we continue to keep our minds and bodies healthy through mental wellness?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was going with that in terms of.
Yeah. To narrow it down, I mean, as far as how we grew up, and, a lot, not just us, but a lot of, it's stigma like, oh, you don't need that. You don't, what are you, are you, the word, are you a pussy?
Yeah,
you know
right.
I mean?
Yeah.
And
I mean, look, man, Clark, no holds barred here, right, buddy?
Oh man! If we had a camera right now,
right?
I love it. I love
Clark's hair right now for everybody that is listening.
So this is what's beautiful about building a refuge. So when we sit down for this podcast, when we do our meetings, it's an easier approach into mental health.
Right.
The stuff that he's talking about right now, is hard.
I know.
But man, somehow the three of us and. Looking at Clark right now.
I can't look at him right now. Is he? Are you mic'd up, Clark?
Yeah, I'm mic'd up.
Oh, great. Yeah.
But we don't have a video.
I wish we had a camera on.
But to be able to sit here and smile and laugh and talk about this stuff, it's serious.
It is.
But we have a good time.
Yeah.
And when you can get guys sitting down and talking about this stuff and be able to have a little bit of soft approach to it, it opens up doors that you and I see every day.
Well, we hope that it tells somebody
other
it's
people,
okay, right?
Other people can see.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love about Josh's story is the fact that, like, at any point in time, and like you said, military or not,
right?
But let's be real. He was in the military. He was in the Marines. He saw stuff that you and I have never seen, that a lot of people have never seen. And so there's things in there that he has to deal with.
Right.
And is incredibly effective to people who are struggling.
That's right.
And so, Josh, like when you decided and made that choice, what were some of the things that changed? And here's the reason why I asked that question. When you're struggling, like all three of us have, and we're in that dark place,
Right.
it feels like you can never get out,
Right.
ever. And so what we like to do on this podcast is to just continually put examples in front of guys, not preach and not tell and not give instruction, one, A, B, C, D, and F. Don't do that. It's, here's the story.
Right.
Can you resonate with it?
Right. Just it's almost like you're trying to umbrella and like share these powerful stories, not just mine, because you can't just, corner one part of the society.
Right.
I think what I like about this, so, and what I'm starting to feel the energy with this is that if
Clark's hair.
yeah, that's great. If we can share multiple, what's the word am I looking for? Multiple stories.
Yeah.
We're gonna help more people.
Yeah.
Right.
Like for instance, we all ride Harleys.
That's right.
Yeah. As a kid, those guys are cool. They're tough. They're
Yeah.
But you get to know us. We're some pretty cool dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With some wild
some
stories.
stories. And if that
With
resonate,
different stories.
right?
Yeah.
And if we can resonate from that platform, not just Harley, but the military, even
Police officers.
police officers, but more so from spirituality, which I believe in my heart is number one.
Amen.
It's part of the puzzle piece that I could not run away from anymore.
Yep.
I couldn't do it. I
Chased you down, didn't he? He put you in a full Nelson and
Did you have that in your background growing up?
I did, but I was
did.
going through the motions, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. That was the thing to do, was go to church every Sunday, sing praise, pass the the money thing around, and then
The money thing.
and
I love it.
and that's what you did on Sundays growing up.
Yeah.
I even got baptized without even knowing what it meant, what the magnitude of what it meant.
Yeah.
Sure.
Until here I am, a 46-year-old child. Okay, that's heavy.
Yeah.
Being baptized and giving your life to the Lord.
That's right.
Of course, I'm not perfect by all means, and I never will be. But I will have to say, out of the experiences in my life, the recovery, the stuff like that, and I should be dead 4 times.
Yeah.
Not only from a recovery, but from other professional things. There is a God.
So I'm going to ask you this because, we're not shy away from asking questions, right? What is it, Josh, that when you mentioned just a minute ago about, you said this, right? What is it about the previous experience that you had, like with your, say, past faith, church, whatever, religion, comparatively to who you are today?
I think a lot of this is just, and by all means, I'm not pinpointing or putting people in a corner.
Yep.
I think it's going to take this group of people to reach as many people as we can. I think we are more. This group is more approachable.
Yeah.
We got. I'm sleeved out. We got. We got a guitar player over there. That's pretty awesome. I see him at church
That's
this
right.
morning.
In the audience today.
He's all sleeved out too. Pretty cool looking dude.
Yeah.
He's kinda,
sleeved out's fine. I'm working that way.
We got Clark with his Van Halen hair.
Yeah, we got a bunch of sexy people over there right now. I think because people don't want fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are hurt and are still dealing with a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, not just military law enforcement.
Yeah.
That they're still hurt to the degree that the idea of going to church and the embodiment is somebody is yelling at them again.
Yep.
But if you can take the approach that what you guys are doing here, like, we're just a bunch of knuckleheads just trying to make it through life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're able to reach more people, and hopefully, especially some loved ones.
Yeah.
I've got a few on my mind, that this world's dying.
Yeah.
And not to be a doomsday prepper or anything like that, but these are the times.
Yeah.
I think all of us that have some kind of spiritual connection, it's heavy.
Yeah.
You can feel it. Like, just with the politics and everything that's going on, it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
So the
focus has shifted for sure. And I think, just in general, you know what I mean? I think overall, and especially because, again, we're all roughly the same age. We grew up, in 70s or what have you, 80s and early 90s, whatever. I mean, you're right, man. I mean, if you just look at it from a general perspective, things have changed significantly. Yeah. The reason I asked you that question is simply around this, man, and I think you guys all would agree, and I hope that maybe listeners out there that take a listen to this, maybe they are curious about it, but your identity has changed, has it not?
100%.
Yeah. And it's not about, I see you're a brother.
Mm-hmm.
You're a brother. I care about you. I love you. We've only known each other a year, and I feel 100% confident in telling you that. And I'd be on your 6 every day. All right.
Right. I might need that.
That's fine.
Keep me in
Call
line.
me, man. You know where I'm at. But I just think that is important because as we've learned and I've learned, my probably story isn't a whole lot different than yours in terms of previous who I was without understanding that identity. I thought maybe I had to change completely,
mm-hmm.
right? Change who I am, change how I act, change how I behave, change
right.
about all that, right? But I know this today, man. I don't have to change anything.
No.
Because if I have to change, he don't want me.
Right.
And I'll say this, but I'm different.
Right.
But I'm the same dumb knucklehead that I've always been. You know what I mean? And I'm damn proud of it. So
yeah, I'm always gonna, I think, resonate with. I'm always gonna be that 40 or that, I say different age ranges, 5, 13, 16. I'll choose those 46-year-old.
Yeah.
Being able to. I think you need to be able to stay a kid. God wants that.
Yeah.
He says be childlike.
Right.
But being able to handle your stuff when you need to.
Yeah.
On a serious level.
And still yet be savages. You
right.
know what?
Be an absolute savage. Having the ability to, if I need to, doesn't mean you're looking for it, but if I need to, push comes to shove, I'm going to be able to protect my family, my friends, children, loved ones. But at the end of the day, after that's all said and done, I can roll around on the floor with the kids, be an absolute just idiot, just the fun-loving kid, with them.
Yeah.
I think you get more direction, and I think it's more, it would be more of an impact on children's lives and just people's lives, being able gosh, this guy is he's the real deal, but he can actually turn the switch on and be like this knucklehead. What's going on there? I want more of that.
Yeah.
What is going on in his life?
Yeah.
And then
that's the key right there.
That's right.
You hear that? I want more of that.
Yeah. That's right.
That's what we're seeking, right? We're seeking joy. We're seeking peace. We're seeking, because all that stuff, and I can only imagine what runs around in your head from your past. But I know what runs around in my head from my past, and that's what we seek is that peace, that joy. And you said it best. I just wanted more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
that's huge. That's huge.
So, John, let me ask you this. We ask all of our folks, and we've been blessed to have a lot of cool people on, so far, and we have people lined up that I'm super excited to hear from. You know what I mean? But we always ask. Again, you're. So here's this. You're one, and I love this, and you are our first veteran to come on our show, so thank you very much for your service, and thanks for coming on. We appreciate it greatly. You were the first guest that we've had come on that with what Erik and I have set out to do, we found you, or you found us. I don't know how to play. I don't even know how to put that, but regardless, we're on each other's path, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, if you can, just share with us a little bit about maybe what, from your perspective, looking from the outside in, what building a refuge kind of means to you, and what you've seen so far, and what your involvement has been.
I'm going to be very transparent at the beginning. I just thought it was because you've got all kinds of podcasts and stuff and shows out there.
Yeah.
I'm before I knew or I felt that vibe, this is a safe place for me, a safe place for Josh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're a dime a dozen. They're out there. But now that I've been around Brandon and just, I think this is the first time we've intimately talked.
Right.
Yeah.
That gives me, man, Josh is good, man. He's coming on.
Yeah. I had this anxiety of I hope I'm proper. I hope I'm respectful.
Good
all
Lord.
this stuff.
Oh my gosh. Right?
But I mean, I think this is, this. This I think I'll be a part of this for the rest of my life. There's no doubt about that.
Well,
Love to have you, man.
Yeah, and I mean, no doubt, dude. Like I said earlier, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And it's taken me a long time and not a long time, but I'll tell you this much, since building a refuge, right? But I mean, I love you, dude. I mean, I love you and care about you. And I'm so grateful, like, we can sit and laugh about these degrees of separation that I'm, back in the early 90s, I'm standing on a bleachers with a VHS tape.
Filming
this dude. Didn't even know who he was. I'm like, these guys are freaking good. Like, this team's good,
But the powerful thing about this is God knew that.
Oh, no.
He already knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, man. I mean,
and if you try to wrap your mind around that,
it blows your mind.
Yeah, it's 100%.
I mean,
the all of God.
Yeah, it's crazy because you can't. I don't know, man. But anyways, I've gotten a lot more comfortable, saying that to men that have come into our life. I don't have a problem saying I love you, man. I mean, and I don't. There's some people around me that get a little heebie-jeebie because I'm a hugger, man. I'll come in heavy.
I still get weirded by it.
Especially when I touch your leg, right? I mean,
don't do that.
Don't do that. So
or whisper in your ear.
Yeah. Or lean in.
Right.
Yeah, don't lean in.
Yeah, lean in. No,
lean in's weird.
But no, seriously, man. Thank you so much. I can't. We thank you on behalf of Building a Refuge and everybody that's been a part of this and just your courage and vulnerability to come on and share a story. And I'm sure we're going to ask you to come back again because as 100%. You continue in your journey and you continue to grow in this, Josh, I know and I hope and I have belief in this that there's going to be more opportunity that we're going to be able to have you share your experiences and things like that. Because I know in my heart, man, like much like you when we started this, Erik and I would sometimes say, we're like, God, man, like, hope we're doing the right thing here. It's like, are we doing this for us or what are we doing, right? And then lo and behold, somebody will come in and smoke us. And Clark Crosser and LDR Studios, but Clark Crosser personally did that to us. And it wouldn't be us sitting here right now if it wasn't for shit like this that comes together, man. And it's humbling, man. It's just super humbling. So we thank you. We thank you for your service and we appreciate you coming on. But as we wrap up, I just want to say thank you again to Clark and LDR for sure. We want to say thank you to all of our veterans that are out there listening. We care about you. We love you. You're meaningful to everybody. If you are alone, we have some resources. You can text the word refuge to 494949. And if you also have a phone and can't text or what have you, but there's a couple of resources as well. Vets can call 1-800-273-8255, or you can also text 838-255. And I got to look down at these because these numbers sometimes I get a little mixed up. But and then our national suicide hotline is 988, so you can call that. But in all seriousness, we care about you and we appreciate you coming on, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks
100%.
everybody for listening
Thank
today.
you. Thanks for having me.
We're out.
God, I need a refuge, someone I can talk to when it seems all hope is gone. So build me a refuge, somewhere I can run to, someplace that feels like home.